Hi, and thank you for joining me for another video. And friends, the reason I'm making this video today is because of Rabbi Shmuley Boteach's new book called Kosher Jesus. Now, I have not read the book, but the excerpts that I have read attempts to paint Jesus as something not literally described in the New Testament. And note that the only reason this book is getting such publicity is because the author, who happens to be a renowned rabbi, is stating that Jesus, who is described in the New Testament, is kosher, or in other words, was properly adhering to the Torah standards of his time. Friends, before we begin dissecting the issue, we first have to realize the two audiences this book is targeting. The first, the religious followers of Jesus who already believe in him as a kosher Jewish Messiah. And two, the skeptical, unaffiliated, historical and theology buffs who like to think creatively. And friends, with an introduction written by the most famous Jewish Christian of our time, Dr. Michael Brown, we can see who the author was setting his sights on. And friends, the first question we should ask in this very important video is, can Jesus exist outside of the narrative of the New Testament? Because as serious theologians, we must ask serious questions and rely only on religious texts if we are to build anything that can confirm a religion. In other words, by Judaizing an individual whose existence is not verifiable outside the New Testament, we only strengthen Christianity and its variants. And Rabbi Boteach didn't create this problem, but there are actually many other books out there today that not only attempt to Judaize Jesus, but every story in the Gospels, giving them a Jewish spin, when the evidence is just not there, my friends. In defense of this allegation, many erroneously claim that the only authentic text of the New Testament is the Aramaic version, when they fail to mention that virtually every serious scholar in this field has claimed that even the Aramaic was only a translation of the Greek by the church. Heck, we even see that when quoting Hebrew scriptures, the New Testament authors use the Greek translation of the Bible, the Septuagint, as their version of choice. In other words, why didn't they use the Targum or just the Hebrew text themselves? But for the sake of argument, let's assume that the Aramaic version predated the Greek one. Has anyone ever asked the important question, which is, where does the Aramaic version really differ in the narrative from the Greek one? Because many will make the claim that because there's an Aramaic version of the text, this proves that Jesus was kosher in some way. Actually, anyone who has ever studied the Aramaic version of the New Testament, which does exist in English, would realize that the Aramaic version is actually more explicit on the deity of Jesus than the Greek and virtually every other doctrine held by the church today. In other words, who cares about different versions when they're all virtually saying the same things? So we can't make statements like the church today has Hellenized Jesus when the only text that alludes to his existence paints him this way. For example, as Torah Jews, we understand that the Almighty cannot exist outside of his will. In other words, if the Torah itself explicitly depicted God in one way, no one would be justified in stating that God was anything else or that certain commandments did not exist. So the modern day Jesus, as represented by the church, isn't corrupt because of the narrative in the New Testament, but rather the New Testament is corrupt because of the only known narrative of the life of Jesus. So no, a Messianic Jew, Nazarene, or any other hybrid can't say he or she believes in Jesus only as a Rebbe and at the same time claim that the New Testament, either in Greek or in Aramaic, are without error, because again, the texts are explicit and virtually identical. And what kind of basis is that for you to build anything anyways? And who allotted you the biblical authority to build anything outside of the Torah? We have to ask these questions, friends. In other words, the only reason we accept the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, as an authority in our lives is because not only was it the instructions that God gave over to millions publicly, but it was the first book to spark an ethical revolution worldwide. In other words, friends, it works. And someone may say that the New Testament or even the Quran has been widely known for changing the behavior of its followers. But friends, you have to understand that the only reason that happened was because these books had the Torah as their foundation. If not, can you quote an ethical statement in the New Testament first not alluded to in the Torah? And actually, we only accept the prophets and the writings because they bounce all their words off Torah first. Now, that's a statement we can make not even about the New Testament or even some rabbinic writings. That's why it's virtually impossible to be familiar with and convinced of the Torah truths and standards and then embrace Christianity. But however, many Christians do claim this. But friends, don't let them fool you. They weren't Orthodox Jews and then only accepted Jesus later, but they were all virtually Christians first who have Judaized their beliefs in order to be accepted in the Jewish world. They also say things like, oh no, we don't believe in Jesus Christ. Oh no, we have a Rebbe by the name of Rabbi Yeshua of Nazareth, and As our Rebbe, we believe that he was the Messiah of his generation. And then they will tell you that it appears in Jewish tradition that there will be two Messiahs, Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David. And we believe that Yeshua was only Mashiach ben Yosef. And don't you know that the secrets of the Messiah are contained in the Zohar and other Kabbalistic works? They'll tell you that figures like Metatron is Yeshua himself. And they will also tell you that they only believe in Rebbe Yeshua just as Chabad believes in their Rebbe, as Rabbi Schneerson also taught, that a Rebbe is a divine essence placed in a body. And just like Midrashim in the Talmud, we also have our own Midrash called the Brit Hadashah. Friends, what stupidity on both sides, and what's even stupider is that when Jews hear this, they can't respond because their theology has been so corrupted. Because again, friends, everything that was just stated justifies virtually every belief held by modern Christianity. Why? Because we've abandoned the Torah and its standards. Firstly, the idea of holding your Rebbe as the world's Messiah is a non-biblical belief not rooted anywhere in Torah, and these ideas only found their way into rabbinic literature as tales and legends, but were never meant to be taken literally. Why? Because again, they didn't appear in Torah, and today the only ones who have accepted such ideas as binding are corrupt Hasidic groups that do so without clearly analyzing the halachic ramifications of such beliefs. And even the notion of Mashiach ben Yosef, which only appeared after the death of Jesus, has never been codified into Jewish law. Why? Because it doesn't appear in the Torah, friends. So the idea of the world suffering for not accepting the Messiah's supposed coming is as disconnected from the Torah as the world suffering for not accepting Rabbi Schneerson as its supposed Messiah. It's silly, which why I'm so critical on modern day practical Kabbalah, mainly because every Kabbalist nowadays is a potential Christian, and virtually every Christian would also claim to be a Kabbalist to justify his claims. Also, the claim that just as we have Midrashim, they also have their Midrash also doesn't stand, because unlike their Midrashim, we have not formulated a new religion around ours, mainly because we understand that Midrashims have never had any authority in themselves, but were only useful when they amplified Torah principles. Because if they didn't, what could ever stop you or anyone from introducing a new text and also say, this is from God, right? Why not accept the Quran or the Book of Mormon? Think about it. Actually, the rise of Christianity is our punishment for forsaking Torah and delving into mysticism, mainly because you could justify every doctrine found in the New Testament in Kabbalistic literature. That's why we should strive to educate the Jewish world with the proper understanding of Torah Judaism so that they can flush out the imposters from among their midst, who are theologically no different than regular Christians who are not afraid to stand by what their Bible says. And again, as I always taught, friends, not excluding them from the proper understanding of Torah, but rather away from the false persona of being considered Torah Jews. Actually, even the notion that they teach that Jesus is only Mashiach ben Yosef goes contrary to what the New Testament teaches, because Jesus stated himself that he would be the one returning as the reigning Messiah, in other words, Mashiach ben David. And one of the most disturbing notions found in Rabbi Boteach's book is the idea that the biblical Jesus was a rabbi, to the point that I've heard some say that he was also a Pharisee and even a personal student of Hillel. Friends, where does this appear in the text? And if he was a student of Hillel, why do we have him living in the north of Israel calling illiterate fishermen to be his disciples? Think about it, friends. And another folly made by many historians on the historical Jesus is also assuming that because it appears in the New Testament, it's in some way factual, when even the Christian texts themselves cannot agree with each other. In other words, these books at least should not be located in the non-fiction aisle. And friends, again, the only thing we should know about the historical Jesus is what is written in the New Testament, nothing more. And the image painted in those books is not kosher. And friends, if you're sick and tired of nonsense in your belief system, I want to welcome you to embrace Torah Judaism and begin building a solid relationship with the Creator. For more information on Torah Judaism, please visit bejewish.org. And for more information on converting to Judaism, please visit torahjudaism.org. Thank you.